Alrighty. So let's talk about our journal today. So our lesson today, lesson 1.5, is all about cost, revenue, profit, and when you break even. So before we even jump into like what those words mean, someone tell me, like, if you think about starting a business, what are the costs representing? When you think about starting a business and I say cost, what does that mean? What do you think, Owen?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
What were you gonna say? How much what?
How much money you spend
To do what?
to buy stuff?
To get your business started, right? So it's like the upfront stuff that you pay. What is revenue?
Money you earn.
The money you earn. Good job. Okay. So a common goal of a business is to make a profit after considering the cost involved. So this can be very complicated, so it helps us to understand the concept by, first of all, we're going to define our terms, and then we're going to look at some simple situations. Your 1.5 I can statement, on your journals, right? Every time we do a journal, we have an I can statement. It's at the front of your index for unit 1. So I'm going to help you fill this one out. So the 1.5 I can statement says what? Anyone have that? Do you guys know what it says? It says I can write equations. I can write equations to model real world situations that involve profit, cost, revenue, and break even scenarios. So I can write equations for real world examples that deal with our cost, our profit, our revenue, and break even. So Owen and Tim both told us that the cost is the amount of money that you spend up front. So that's what I'm just going to write. I'm just going to write it's the amount of money that you spend up front to start your business. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a business, but like to start whatever it is you're doing, right? So it could look like an initial fee, or it could be something like materials. It might look like materials. It might look like, it might say something like a startup. Or the other thing I read last night when I was doing our notes, I think that we had an example where you paid for like a web design. That's kind of an upfront cost, right? Web design. Those are all things that you pay up front. Materials, startup, web design. Maybe you're starting a t-shirt company, so you have to purchase some kind of logo machine, whether it's a decal or an embroider machine. You also have to purchase all of your t-shirts up front, things like that. Those are what costs are, okay? And then we were told that revenue is what? Yeah, the money that you earn from sales. So your revenue is just the money that you earn from your sales. So whatever product you're making, when you sell it, that's your revenue. Isaac, what do you think it means to make a profit? What does that look like?
Oh, you gain money from sales,
You gain money from your sales after you do what?
upfront costs.
After you pay for your upfront costs. That's awesome. So your profit comes from your sales after you pay your costs. So we can actually write an equation that says P for profit equals our revenue, that's the amount of money that we get from our sales, minus our costs. P profit equals our revenue minus our costs. Does that make sense? Okay. What do you think it means to break even? Kenna?
I mean, whatever in business class, but I think it's like when you buy something and you sell it for like the same amount as you bought it for, kind of sort of thing.
Okay, so we're not really buying something, we're actually gonna create something. So that means that your costs equal your revenue. Oh, sorry, Owen. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
Good job. So you break even when your costs are equal to your revenue. So do you make a profit if your costs equal your revenue? No, you have zero profit. But that's good because you're not in the hole, right? Some businesses go in the hole. So break even is when your, whoops, I don't know where that disappeared to, when your revenue and your costs are equal. When your revenue and costs are equal. You're not making a profit, but you're not in the hole, okay? Good? Raise your hand if you need more time on that. All right. So open it up on, I folded mine in half too. Mine is on white paper, yours is on that fleshy, peachy colored, whatever. But I folded mine in half. So I'm gonna glue it in my journal like this, right? So it's like a little book. All right. So whenever I first look at a word problem, I know that we just love word problems, right? So whenever I look at a word problem, I try to identify, especially if it's a profit, cost, break even kind of question. The first thing that I try to do is I read the word problem and then I go back through and I underline or circle like my costs and I label them C, and then I underline or circle my revenue and I label it R, okay? So who wants to read this for us? Please and thank you.
David starts a lawn care business and invests $2,250 in equipment. He charges $50 for each lawn he mows, and the cost of supplies for each lawn is $15. Define variable wet lawn.
Okay, so let's just go back up to that problem. What do you think our costs are? What do you think our costs are gonna be in this situation? What do you got, Kenna?
Like a lawnmower and stuff.
Yeah, so the amount of money that he spends on his equipment, that's a cost. Good job. Does anyone see another cost in there? Gas, how does that show up? That shows up as supplies, right? Supplies for our lawn, maybe gas, maybe fertilizer, grass seed, things like that, right? So this is also a cost. What does our revenue look like? Yeah, the $50 that he charges each person for their lawn, right? So this amount of money that he charges, this is our revenue. So how is he coming up with his charge or making? We're talking about how many, what is he doing? He's actually doing what is his job? He's taking care of what? Lawns. So that's our variable. We're gonna let X equal the number of lawns. X is the number of lawns, okay? So now we're talking about, we're gonna break up into like 2 or 3 different equations. So let's first of all talk about our cost. Our cost, so we represent that with a capital C. So our cost equals what, Tim? Our cost equals what?
2,050, yeah, plus 15x.
Good job, plus 15x. Tim, why did you put the 15 and the x together?
Because the 15 is always there, and the 2,250 is the initial cost.
The initial fee,
Pay
good
the
job.
15 every time.
And we're paying $15 per lawn, for each lawn, right? Okay, what about revenue? Kenna, what do you think our revenue equation is gonna be? How much does he make?
So the money he's earning from cutting the lawn or doing whatever he's doing.
Yeah, so what is it? What does he make for every lawn?
50 each.
So how do I show $50 per lawn? 50x, good job.
Actually,
Yeah, good job. Okay. So let's take a look at that front page again of our journal. Tell me, what was our profit equation? What did we say our profit equation was gonna be?
P equals 1 minus C.
P equals R minus C. Okay. So P equals R minus C. So what do you think we're gonna do to actually come up with an equation? Because that's not really helping us at all. What are we gonna do, Owen?
We're gonna, put the revenue and the cost, their numbers in.
Yeah, we're gonna substitute.
Placing the R and the C.
Yeah, we're gonna take this 50x and put it right here where our R is. And then we're gonna take this whole expression and plug it in here for C. So let's do that. So let's see, my profit equals, because I want a simplified expression or a simplified equation. So my revenue, which is $50 times X, number of lawns, minus, what am I subtracting from that? The whole cost, right? The whole cost. So what do I need to do with the whole cost? What do I need to do with the whole cost? What am I doing with my arms? Say it again, Avery.
You have to multiply those things with the revenue. I forgot what they're called. Bracket?
Parentheses or brackets, yeah. We have to group that whole thing together, right? Because we're subtracting the initial fee plus the amount of money that he spends per lawn. So we have a negative outside of our parenthesis. Lissandro, I forgot what happens when we have a negative outside of our parenthesis. Yeah, you're just distributing that. I don't want to say that we always put a negative in front of the two numbers because if one of them is negative, it would turn into a positive. So we're just distributing that negative through. It's the same thing as multiplying by -1. So our profit is actually 50x minus, let's see, -1 times 2,250 is -2,250. And -1 times a positive 15x is -15x. Okay. So, Aiden A, do you see anything that I can group together or simplify?
minus 50x.
What is 50x minus 15x? 50 minus 15 is, Owen?
35.
So 35x minus 2,250. That is our profit equation. Does that make sense? What do you think, Michelle? Good? Okay. How many lawns does he need to mow to break even? So Victoria, look at the front. What does it mean to break even? Break even means what? Yeah, our costs are equal to our revenue. So that means that my cost equation, 2,250 plus 15x, has to equal my revenue, which is 50x. How are we going to figure this out? How are we going to solve this or simplify it? What do you think, Isaac?
Oh.
Good job. We're going to subtract 15x from both sides. I like that. So 2,250 equals 35x. Now what do you want to do, Tyler? How do I get x all by itself? Divide. Exactly. We're going to divide both sides by 35. Good job. So someone pick up their calculator, if not all of you. How many lawns do I have to mow to break even?
173.07.
173.07. Okay. Someone try that again. Is that what everybody got?
I'll put 13.
Yeah, because that's not what I got. Yeah, I got like 60, like if I put exactly what I got, I think I got 64.28, right? So what's it look like to mow 64.28 lawns? Can you just go to someone and say, hey, I'm only gonna mow 0.28 of your lawn? Are they gonna pay you for that?
Are you gonna pay me for that?
No, they're not. So how many lawns do we really need to mow? Yeah, he needs to mow 65 lawns. We're gonna mow 65 lawns, okay? How do we feel about that? Good? Okay. I want someone to read about Beaufort bicycles. Kylie, are you raising your hand? Okay, go ahead.
Beaufort bicycles make bicycles at a cost of $3,000 per month, plus $50 per bicycle produced. They sell bicycles for $100 each.
Okay, let's see. Kylie, I want you to look at that and tell me one cost. What is one cost? Shh. 1,000 isn't even in the equation. 3,000. So this is a cost. Guys, when you whisper answers, you steal someone's opportunity to learn. I've told you that before. Okay. Brianna, what is another cost? It's going to look like something that they pay to produce something. Yeah, this is another cost. Notice that the first cost that we talked about, that 3,000, is just that amount that they have to pay each month. But then that $50 is for every single bicycle. Okay? What's a revenue, Ken? What's our revenue? How much do I make for every bike that I sell? Yep. Do I make $50 for every bike that I sell? How much am I selling bikes for? Okay, so that's our revenue. What are we talking about? We're talking about what? What's our variable? X, okay. What does X represent? The number of bicycles, right? Okay. So we're going to let X equal the number of bicycles. Whoops. Okay. Cost equation. Eden S, what do you think? What's our cost equation? C equals what? Good job. 3,000 plus 50x. Awesome. Daniel, what's our revenue equation? R equals what? R equals what? How much do you sell each bike for? Good. 100x. R equals 100x. 100 per bike. So 100 times. What is our break-even point? How am I going to set that up, Avery? How am I going to set up the break-even? Look at the front of your notes. How do I set up the break-even? That's all right. Take a look. I let what equal what? Yeah, remember that when we break even, we have to let R equal C. R equals C. So what is that going to look like when we substitute in our values for R and C? What's that going to look like? What is the value of R, Avery? What expression? Good job, 100x equals, what is our cost? What's our cost? What's the C expression? C, or the C equation? C equals what? So C equals 3,000 plus 50x. So now we have to figure out how many bikes they have to sell to break even. Tim, what do you want to do first?
Can we put parentheses around the 3,000?
Oh, we can, but there's nothing outside of it. We're not multiplying it by anything, or we're not subtracting it. Ken, will you pick your head up for me so I know I have your 100% attention? Thank you. So what do you want to do first? Kylie comes in with a sneak answer, minus 50x. Good job. Minus 50x from both sides. So that leaves me with 50x equals 3,000. Michelle, how am I going to get x all by itself? What is the next step? What would you do? Divide. Good job. Divide both sides by 50. Divide both sides by 50. So x equals 60. Good job. That's all right. X equals 60 bicycles. So we have to sell 60 bicycles to break even. So this has a second part to it. It says, will they earn a monthly profit if they sell 70 bicycles? How can you be sure? Yes, because 70 is more than 60. Anything under 60 is going to make a what? Is it going to give us a profit or a deficit? Deficit. Anything less than 60 is a deficit. And a deficit just means that you're in the hole. You're not making money, right? Anything less than 60 is a deficit. Questions about that? Okay, I have one more example. I have one more example. Sorry, I see some of you guys are still writing. Freeze that for a second. So for our next example, the table that I inserted in here, do you see it says the table shows? Well, the table doesn't show anything because the table that I inserted in there was like a screenshot and it just didn't translate over well. And I didn't catch it until after I made the copies, which is silly. But so we're going to draw that table really fast. So we're just going to write plan 1 and plan 2. We're going to draw our own table. So Pam's Pilates studio has 2 monthly plans for their customers. We're just going to call it plan 1 and plan 2. The table shows the cost for taking classes on each plan. So we have to, when we talk about each plan, we have to talk about the number of classes and the total cost. So plan 1, number of classes, total cost. Plan 2, number of classes and total cost. Turn this into like a red line so you can see that we're going to compare the 2 plans. So for plan number 1, if I take 1 class, it costs me $53. If I take 2 classes, it costs me $71. For plan number 2, if I take 1 class, it costs me $45. And if I take 2 classes, it costs me $70. So the question says, which plan should you choose if you plan to do 8 classes per month and why? So we haven't talked about solving linear equations, right? Or writing linear equations. So we're just going to look at things that we do know. We do know how to recognize a pattern. So how much is the cost changing for each class in plan 1? How much is, let me say it again what I'm asking. How much does the cost change based off of the number of classes?
It goes up by 18.
Yeah, in plan 1, we add $18 per class. It's $18 extra per class. What about in plan 2? Yeah, plan 2 goes up by 25. So in plan 2, we're adding 25 per class. So the question is, which plan should you choose if you want to take 8 classes? Why?
Plan 1 because you end up spending less money.
You spend less money. Could we prove it? Let's see. If I think about plan 1, I know that 1 class equals $53. And if I want to go to 8 classes, what is my change here? How much am I adding on this side? 1 plus what is 8?
7.
Adding 7. And we know that the increase for the number of classes is $18. So we could say to find 8 classes, we take the original cost for one class plus 7 times 18. And that'll tell us how much it costs to take 8 classes using Plan 1. That'll tell us our cost for 8 classes using Plan 1. So someone grab out their calculator and let's take a look and see how much it's gonna cost for 8 classes using Plan 1. Yes. How much is it gonna cost for 8 classes using Plan 1?
$179.
$179. Did at least 2 of you get that?
Please excuse this interruption, but bus 259 has arrived, so please allow those students to get to class. So bus 259, late bus has arrived, please allow these students to get to class. Thank you.
Did everybody get 179 for that? 53 plus, yes? Okay. So $179. Let's look at our Plan 2. Let's look at our Plan 2. So Plan 2, we have that one class is $45. If we want to know about 8 classes, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add 7 on the left, but the increase in our class cost is how much? What am I paying actually per class? 25, yeah. So we can take the cost for one class, $45, plus 7 times 25. So what is Plan 2 going to cost for 8 classes?
$220.
Yeah, 200 and, let's see, 7, I think it's going to be a little bit more than 220. Plus,
Times 25 is 175, plus 45 is 220.
okay, perfect. Sorry about that, sir. So Plan 1 is the better cost, just like Tim said at the beginning. Plan 1 is the better cost. Okay? What do you think? Does that make sense?